Casino in Baton Rouge, where, of course, 24/7, 365, they've got the kiosk where you can bet on football games and basketball games, you name it. And then, of course, they have the manned desks and stuff where you can go place your action 7 days a week as well, till 10 o'clock each day. Tommy joining us from Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, as he always does on Mondays and Fridays. TK, reaction to yesterday. On today's show, we'll talk about the Saints debacle. They've lost 5 in a row. That's never happened in the Sean Payton era. We'll talk about Taysom Hill. Is he an NFL quarterback, starting quarterback or not? We'll also talk about LSU men's and women's basketball. They are on fire right now. Women just pulled off beating a ranked team for the first time in the Kim Mulkey era. You and I had a chance, along with a bunch of former players and coaches, to visit with Jay Johnson and Skip Pertman last night. We'll have a couple reactions to that visit and a whole lot more. But first, let's get right into the New Orleans Saints. I think when the schedule came out, Tommy, and you saw that the Saints were going to play back-to-back home games on Thursday night in prime time, Thanksgiving Buffalo, the following week Dallas, we knew those two teams were very good this year and expected to win their division, and Buffalo, in their case, expected to compete for the Super Bowl. So probably going 1-1 would have been okay, but clearly going 0-2 and not really being in those games is pretty shocking. And now they've lost 5 in a row, and it feels like the season's completely lost.
Yeah, I definitely think the season's completely lost. I mean, just no offense. Taysom Hill's not a quarterback. He's not an every down, bring you to the playoffs quarterback. Can he be a quarterback in certain situations? Yes. But, Ronnie, the Saints, I mean, that's 5 in a row they have lost, and they're 1-4 in the dome. Think about that, 1-4 in the dome. That used to be – teams used to say, oh, no, we got to go to the dome.
Right.
Now they can't wait to get to the dome. A lot of fans were there. They were loud. They were into it. Prime time, all NFL eyes on this game Thursday night. And the defense continues to be outstanding. Ronnie, it's kind of like when you go play golf. And some days you're just hitting that drive right in the middle of the fairway, right where you want it, and then you can't hit your irons. Or you're hitting your irons right by the hole, you can't make a putt. The Saints have got the defense. They just don't have any offense. Now, injuries, yes. Not having Kamara and your 2 starting tackles, that's part of the story. But you got other guys on the roster that have to step up, and it's not happening. It's unfortunate because – and now you got to wait till a week from Sunday you go play at the Jets. Now, you would think they win that game, but now I'm not so sure, I mean, it's just frustrating for Saints fans.
The Saints offensively, I don't care. Look, I was one when it came to the Drew Brees thing, Tommy, that felt like Drew earned playing as long as he wanted to, playing until he wanted to retire. If that meant staying a couple years a little too long because his talents diminished or whatnot, I was okay with that. Because for what he did and for how good he was and what he meant to this franchise, to me, he earned that right. But I'm telling you right now, Drew Brees, even in his prime, would be hard to win with this team with all the players that are out, with Kamara out, with the 2 tackles out. I mean, last night Taysom Hill was pressured second most of any quarterback in the Sean Payton era because the problems they had on the offensive line. Now, I'll say that no question Drew would have protected, put him in a protection better, or gotten rid of the ball better, and so it wouldn't have been as bad. But still, who's playing receiver? Who's playing running back? Who's on the offensive line? I mean, this is almost like LSU with all the injuries that the Saints are facing.
Well, here's the other thing about last night, Ronnie. He was getting a lot of pressure. Okay, get him out of the pocket. He's mobile. He can move. What the heck happened to rolling him out? Get him out of the pocket. Move him around. Pull up, stop over the tackle. Roll it all the way out. If nobody's open, run for 5 or 10 yards. So, I mean, it was also bad play calling, knowing the situation. You got 2 backup tackles. You're handicapped a little bit with that. And then Hill's getting heat on him all night. Credit Dallas. They said, hey, we're just going to come after this guy. He went 19 for 41 with 260 yards, but 70 of them came on that one play late in the game. So it's awful numbers. Quarterback rating was pathetic. And Sean Payton didn't do anything to try to help Hill be successful by getting him out of the pocket.
Clearly, Taysom Hill is a fantastic athlete, and I do believe that I do believe, Tommy, that he has some value for the New Orleans Saints. But this is, and I felt at times over the years that Sean Payton fell in love with Taysom Hill a little too much to where he forced using him sometimes. It was almost like he looked over at his play chart and he saw Taysom Hill standing next to him and went, oh, man, it's been 20 plays and we haven't gotten you in there. Let me create something for you. Back when Drew was playing, especially at the quarterback position. But I think as an H back, as a slot back, as a running back, as a toss it to him, let him pass it type. I mean, they're special teams. He has tremendous value, no question about it. He is slash 2.0 is what he is. But just like Cordell Stewart wasn't a true starting quarterback in the NFL, from a standpoint of long term, neither is Taysom Hill. Is Taysom Hill a good emergency quarterback? Is he a good backup or third string? Let him play a game or two or let him come in relief? Yes. He is a guy, Tommy, that should be on a 3-year, $3 million a year, $4 million a year deal, maybe even $5 million a year because he can throw QB, backup QB or something on there. But for the Saints to have paid this dude $22 million over the last 2 years and now have committed to another, I think it's guaranteed 16 or something like that in this upcoming deal, and they did the deal a couple of weeks ago when he was on the shelf and wasn't even playing. This is a situation where Sean Payton has a man crush on Taysom Hill, and it's going to cost the Bensons, $40 million.
Well, Ronnie, Lamar Jackson, Taysom Hill's similar to that. Now, Lamar Jackson was an MVP, but they move him around. He's effective running the ball. And last night, Payton tried to morph Hill into a pocket passer, and he's not that. Okay, it's obvious. Everybody in the dome knows that. More importantly, the Dallas Cowboys knew that. So, yeah, I think you're spot on with your analogy on this Hill contract. And this may be something that haunts the Saints for many years because I can't see him being the guy that is the answer to winning the South or getting to the playoffs.
So Taysom Hill, as far as in your eyes, Tom, with this new contract he just signed, so, good for him. This is going to be a one and done. I think I tear this thing up after next year because clearly Sean Payton. And
Ronnie, your audio and video is messed up. Got technical issues. I can't hear anything. We apologize for some technical issues, folks. Bear with us. Hang in there. While we're waiting on Ronnie, Tremonti says gift cards for all your holiday needs. You can get them out any denomination you want. Heaven's Door Whiskey, special on it right now. Single barrel store picked, barrels numbered, the bottle.
Tommy, can you hear me? Tommy, can you hear me?
I got you now. Yes. I got you.
All right. We apologize. We had a little glitch there for whatever reason. All right, TK. So getting back to the Taysom Hill deal for a minute, clearly this is a 1-year deal, right? Like Taysom Hill got over on him. He signed the deal. At this point, I got to believe Sean Payton realizes, look, he's a backup. He's not a starter. And when I say backup, I mean like a guy goes down in the game. We put him in there to finish the game. Maybe he can start a game or something if you need to. But as far as long-term viability with Taysom Hill, it's not there for a guy to be a quarterback for 17 games. And for those apologists of him because he had the hurt finger last night, I don't blame Taysom Hill for the hurt finger, Tommy. That was a freak accident. I blame Sean Payton for having a man crush, probably feeling like he's got something to prove with Taysom Hill. Well, we haven't been winning without him, so might as well. But, clearly he couldn't throw the football. clearly it was hampering him. As a quarterback, as the coach, that's when you've got to make the decisions to get people out of the game. It's the same as a baseball umpire, a coach, a Paul Maneri, a Jay Johnson sitting in the dugout going, this is my ace on the mound all year long. And in a regional, he struggles to get out of the third inning and you leave him in too long. Like, no, you get paid to make those difficult decisions. They should have hooked Taysom Hill after he got hurt. Once he put the splint on and he threw a few ducks and you realize he couldn't throw the ball, get him out of there. You still were in the game at that point.
Yeah, and you got Trevor Siemian, who, there's a reason he was a backup, but he'd have been better than a hurt Taysom Hill. Yeah, I think Sean Payton, he made some coaching errors last night. Now, everybody makes mistakes. All coaches make errors. All players make mistakes. But there should have been either a different plan for Hill or get Trevor Siemian in there and go with it. And you could, because, without the 4 interceptions, the Saints have a realistic shot to win the game. Dallas is probably going to be a playoff team. They're a good football team. And they got explosive offense, which the Saints defense minimized. But then you had zero off. Siemian should have been out there. You should have been rolling Hill out. I know it's easy to coach the Thursday night game on Friday morning, but it's not unfair to say that.
By the way, how many times have we seen Kenny Stills drop balls this year? Now, that catch on the sidelines right before halftime that he should have had because it hit both his hands was in the middle of triple coverage. The ball should have never been thrown. Clearly, Kenny Stills was worried about getting blown up, and he would have been had he caught the ball. But at least it would have either been incomplete or he'd have caught it. But, Tommy, we've seen that same sideline, that same play over and over and over. That dude, when he jumps in the air to catch balls, he just doesn't catch them anymore. I mean, and I get it. They got nobody to play receiver, but it ain't him.
No, it's like you said, kind of like LSU. Everybody has injuries. They maybe have had more than the average or more than the norm, but it's part of it, and that's why you got 53 guys. That's why you got a taxi squad, whatever they call it now, practice team or whatever. But and you didn't make moves before the trade deadline. Hey, it is what it is, and if you're a Saints fan, you can't be real encouraged going forward.
Yeah, I think with 5-7 at this point, with 5 games left to be played, clearly it's an easier schedule. I mean, this would be ideal if the Saints were 7-5 and they had 5 games left to be played, because you'd look at it and think for sure they can win 3 of the last 5. Obviously, at Tampa is the toughest on the schedule, and you got at Atlanta, but you got Jets, you got Dolphins, and you got Carolina at home. But this is bigger than 5-7. It's amazing how the game, and give crab legs to Jameis Winston a lot of credit, because this season turned when he went out, he would still be having issues with no offensive line and all the injuries. But you just feel like the way they were rolling with him at quarterback and the confidence and the locker room presence he brings, they would not have lost 5 in a row. There were chances to win in these 5 games that you would have won 1 or 2 of them for sure with Jameis Winston. And I feel like you'd have worse been 500 or 7-5. You would not have been in this situation.
I agree completely. And Jameis Winston's not under contract for next year.
Right.
Taysom Hill is. Siemian, I'm not 100% certain of his status, but I'm just saying, you got to get a quarterback, and drafting the guy may or may not be the solution. If you keep losing, it may end up being a solution. But it's a tough situation offensively for the Saints right now.
The interesting thing, and we'll talk about this in the offseason, the interesting thing is, and I agree with Rachel, who jumps in here and says, are we back on the drawing board with QBs? Yes, the answer is yes. Although – even if you like Jameis Winston, Tommy, he's probably not even going to be 100% healthy for training camp. You're talking about a guy that maybe can be somewhat healthy for training camp, maybe not even 100% till the season's going on. So he's not really a solution, although he may end up on the roster just because he's hurt.
I got the solution.
All right.
Russell Wilson.
I'd have no problem with that.
That's the solution.
They got to do what they got to do.
Yeah.
And the price is going down.
And I think Sean Payton would, that could be good if he get Russell Wilson. And you're right, he wants out of Seattle. He's made no bones about that. That would be a solution. Now, I don't know if it's going to happen, but I think that would excite the fan base and make the football team better.
The thing with Russell Wilson, Tommy, is I've been a big fan of his for a couple of years. The main thing is I'd have no problem with drafting a quarterback. I think the Saints are going to continue the tank. I see them winning 1 or 2 more games at best, so they're going to be on the probably 12 to 15 range as far as drafting, maybe even a hair less than that. They could possibly be 10th or something. And look, Mac Jones was in the 20-something pick, and he's best quarterback in the draft this year.
He's going to be the rookie of the year.
Yeah, but I have no doubt Sean Payton could get that done. But at this point in his career, Sean Payton and Mickey Loomis, they've always played for the now. They have not played for the future. I don't know that Sean Payton wants to stick around to burn the thing down to the ground and rebuild it and take 3 years to be good again with a rookie quarterback. So, from that perspective, he may say, hey, if you want these guys, I'm out, or you can go play for the now and go get me a Russell Wilson and we'll trade you Taysom Hill and everybody else we can. You may have to give him Michael Thomas to get Russell Wilson. Would you do that deal?
Yes. You got to have a quarterback in the NFL these days. You've got to have a quarterback that can move the ball up and down the field, score points. And you can get another Michael Thomas. I think that's a lot easier than getting, I'd make that trade like yesterday. I'm surprised Chance Babin doesn't want Billy Napier to play quarterback.
He says, I think your bet is safe on the Saints record. What he's talking about
I know it is.
Joel Davis and I have a bet on Sports Shorts Radio, which is going to be tomorrow morning from 10 to noon. We'll be at Calandro's on Perkins in Baton Rouge. Come see us. But the bet was the Saints have to win 8 or fewer games, and I win the bet and
make reservations.
Yeah, and so we're going to be going to Doe's Eat Place. Tommy, you'll probably be joining me because I want to break the bank with Joel and try to
double crab meat on top of that 2-pound steak. Scott Overby, they do a great job over there at Doe's.
That's pretty funny. Who's Michael Thomas? No,
I was wondering.
But listen, this is two superstars in the NFL that want out of their current situations, and to me, it's a even split. If you're Seattle, I don't know that you get a better player than Michael Thomas if you trade him. You might get a couple first round picks, but the Saints clearly would have to package something else with Michael Thomas. But you give me Michael Thomas and a first round pick for Russell Wilson. If I'm Seattle, I'm probably taking that.
Because then
if I'm the Saints, I'm probably doing it.
And then if you put Michael Thomas on the other side of Metcalf, you got a lot of threats there. You find somebody to throw the ball to him. But we're speculating, but I'd be all about that move. And you got to do what it takes, man. You can't, like you said, you can't wait 3 years for somebody to develop.
Right.
So you got to make it happen now.
All right, let's Saints Taysom Hill. We put that story a little bit to rest. Question about Brian Kelly on Wednesday. Let's go talk a little LSU football for a minute. It's been a day, so we've had a chance to marinate on it. Do you think he won the press conference on Wednesday?
I was impressed with President Tate, to be honest with you. I was very impressed with him. First time I really heard him speak. And then Brian Kelly, I liked his – he's got that ability to answer a question and not answer the question.
Right.
And coaches are
good at that. Which is all good coaches do.
The best coaches in the world do that. I was impressed with that. I think he's all business. He's here to win a championship. And, there's been a little national blowback about the way he left Notre Dame and how the players found out about it. But everybody will get over that. And there's a couple other things I've heard about during his tenure at Notre Dame. But obviously he wasn't happy at Notre Dame. And obviously, he's talking opportunity and alignment. I wish I had $1 every time he said alignment the other day. I'd have a lot of dollars. I could go to the kiosk at the LeBears and make a bet. But, so I was good with it. Now, of course, he wanted both his coordinators to come. That's not happening. Freeman was named head coach at Notre Dame officially yesterday, and Reese, the offensive coordinator, is staying there. So now, he's got to work the recruiting very hard and put a staff together very quickly. So, and as soon as he does something, he'll let everybody know. But, he won the press conference. I think he excited the fan base, and I think the players who, they look at it differently than the fans, I think they're ready to go to work.
Freeman being named the head coach at Notre Dame, not a giant shock. I think most people thought Ficklin would be the guy at Cincinnati, who, by the way, Freeman worked for. At Cincinnati. So that was a little interesting to me that they took Freeman over Ficklin. Clearly they think he's better because had you taken Ficklin, probably Freeman would have gone to Cincinnati or West Virginia or somewhere else. I mean, a Virginia Tech or somewhere else to be a head coach. He probably would not have stuck around as the coordinator. And if he had, he would have surely been the highest paid coordinator in the country, and he'd have been a one and done anyway. He was a hot ticket item all around. So this way at Notre Dame, you bring in Freeman, you keep all the players, you probably keep 90% of the recruits. So this was a win for Notre Dame, betting on a young coach who is on the rise, and just goes to show you, you know, how special he was, because LSU tried like the Dickens to get him last year, and it looked like for 24 hours, 48 hours that they would get him, and instead he chose Notre Dame, and he chose wisely.
Well, Notre Dame's, you know, going down the path of continuity and consistency here. You know, with Reeves and Freeman, they could have named one of them head coach, the other one could have stayed in the coordinator role. You know, because they got a good football team. I mean, everybody knows I don't like Notre Dame. They have a good football team who has a chance to be in the playoff when they announce that Sunday at noon, so or 11 a.m., whatever it is. So I think Notre Dame saying, hey, we're just going to keep what we got. They've won 10-plus games for 5 straight years. So there's no reason to, you know, try to upset the apple cart. So I understand the move by Notre Dame, you know, and they might get a guy that might coach there 10, 15 years. Who knows? I mean, nobody knows the future. But Luke Fickell, you know, he's like, hey, I want to coach my team into the playoff, be the first Group of 5 team to ever get in. They got to beat a good Houston team. Houston lost their first game of the year, hadn't lost since. I mean, that might be the game, one of the interesting games of championship weekend.
No question about it. I mean, they can definitely be the spoiler. If Houston knocks off Cincinnati, they'll get a bunch of bouquets sent to them and presents sent to them.
They get some Notre Dame hats. They'll get some Notre Dame gear. So the Notre Dame people will be sending the Cougars a bunch of stuff. But
I'll say this, Tommy, that when it comes to the whole situation with Notre Dame and everything, I'm curious to see how bitter they are. What I mean by that is I'd love to see LSU and Notre Dame schedule again, a home and home, right? Now, it may be like, hey, we're not going to help out Brian Kelly. We do not want to get beat by our old coach or do anything that you know, to mess with that series. But LSU and Notre Dame have some great storied rivalries in the past. I'd love to see them, you know, get that on the schedule. Just like I'm sure Billy Napier is going to have a home game with UL and try to get them as much money as he possibly can. You know, he was making $2 million a year. Maybe he's able to get him a $2 million payday to come to Gainesville or something.
Well, you got to call Verge Osbury and tell him to get that on the schedule, man. Come on, Verge. We're counting on you.
By the way, an article came out from the Advocate about that was kind of ripping Verge, ripping LSU for Verge being on the plane and being involved in the process of getting Kelly and the whole nine. It was an article written yesterday about how that's a bad look in their mind because Verge, of course, was mentioned a bunch.
Well, one of those lawsuits got thrown out. And basically, and Verge was one of the names that was cleared or was being sued, among many others, and some judge tossed that out the window. So that's good for Verge and the people whose names are off that list now.
Yeah, LSU still got a long ways to go with that.
Yeah. That's by no means the end of the story.
But I give my boy Verge. You know, I'm a fan of his personally, and have known him a long time. But that cat's got 9 lives, and I want whatever he's eating or drinking because he is a lot more fortunate than I. All right, so the Kelly press conference, I'll give it on a scale on a letter grade. I'll give it a B-, Tommy. Was uninspired by it. I talked to some people outside of the state of Louisiana that watched the press conference and had a different perspective than we did. They thought he came across a little cold, a little chippy. I didn't feel it was as strong as they felt it, but at the same time, he didn't elaborate on much. He didn't give you a whole lot of aha or did you know? And I think it's a sign of, excuse me, I think it's a sign of things to come. Like that's how he's going to be. He's not going to give you extra. You know, Ed Ogeron sometimes talked a little too much, maybe even got himself in trouble with the players or coaches or whatever because he elaborated a little too much. I don't think you're going to get that with Chip Kelly. I think it's going to be straightforward. This is an interesting take by Chance Babin, and I agree. With Kelly, it felt like we had an adult in the room. It was a totally different vibe, Tommy, having him at the helm as the LSU coach versus Ed Ogeron over the last 5 years. It definitely felt like a CEO type feel versus a D-line coach.
Well, I mean, he's the exact opposite of Orgeron and Les Miles, for that matter.
Right.
If you look back to the last 17 years of LSU coaches, whatever it's been, he's the exact opposite of those two guys. And here's the key point that I think he's a better football coach than Miles and Orgeron, although those two guys have a national championship on the wall. He does not. He's never had the players they had. So, as Ray Charles said, we shall see going forward.
I agree. I disagree with this take. Rachel says he seemed overwhelmed. I don't know that I agree with that. He definitely didn't seem like super comfortable yet. How about that?
Well, but all right, Rachel, Ronnie, that dude was the biggest rock star in the world for 48 hours. He had more pictures taken of him after he landed in Baton Rouge than the last 10 years at Notre Dame. Okay. Right. And he met, 1,000 different people, and everybody wants him to remember his name, and he's not going to do it. Eventually he will. I mean, he just didn't stop. I mean, none of us have ever been through anything like that. So right. If he felt a little overwhelmed, it's because he may have been to a degree, but I think considering all that, he handled it pretty good. I'll go with your B- on the press conference. I'll echo that because, again, he's pretty good at not answering a question, and he's a smart guy. He's calculated when he comments, like most great coaches are. So we'll see how the recruiting goes. We'll see how the staff gets thrown together, and we'll go there.
BK's presser was refreshing. It's been a long 16 years of listening to incompetence by Stefan. That's a pretty good take. And going back to the Les Miles era, sometimes when Les gave press conferences, you came out of there scratching your head going, what did he mean by that? And then, of course, with Ed O, it was just it was different. So, yeah, I agree. It definitely felt different. It didn't feel like an LSU football press conference, Tommy. It felt like the president of the university talking.
Oh, it felt like they were announcing getting a grant in the biology department or something.
It definitely was closer to Nick Saban era. And it's funny because, Jay Johnson, and we'll talk about Jay here in a minute, at his press conferences, and I want folks to notice it today because there's a press conference at 1:00 at LSU.
I'm going to try to attend that. Actually.
Yeah, where they're going to meet with the media, talk about the fall and upcoming season and all that. And so you're going to see a lot of sound bites and things over the next few days with that. But Nick Saban, and they all get it from Nick, because when you listen to somebody a lot and you watch somebody a lot and you read about somebody a lot and you research them, you accidentally pick up a lot of their mannerisms, just like a lot of the former players pick up Skip Bertman type stuff. The word relative has never been uttered more. Jay Johnson uses it. Brian Kelly used it a ton. That's a Nick Saban thing. He's done that for years. Everything's relative to recruiting, relative to player development, relative to our schedule. If you had $1 for every time you heard the word relative, you could buy X Doge with it or Game Coin or something. But pay attention to that. It's funny.
Process, alignment, he used all of those words. I mean, that's fine. Hey, it is what it is. And I'm gonna go back to what I said Wednesday when Marcus Spears was on with Dan Patrick. And Dan Patrick said, Marcus, is Brian Kelly a fit at LSU? Marcus said, if he wins, he's a fit. End of story.
Our boy Scott Berardi, former teammate, Uwe Scott, over in Atlanta watching us. He basically had to be on for 48 hours straight talking about Brian Kelly. I think anybody would be a little overwhelmed. Yeah, that was the point. Scott. Your point you made, Tommy. I hear you. What's up?
Scott should have been there last night. No, he lives in it. Scott lives in Atlanta, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's selling scoreboards all over the country. Chance Babin say Mulkey is also great with the press. Yeah, no doubt about that. Or Prez. She should be Prez. Let's see. Byron Painter up in Alexandria is saying, I prefer to hear a coach be calculated or maybe tempered as opposed to every new coach being all rah-rah about great things will be. Most new coaches give the exact same speech. Yeah, that's a good point there, Byron, is that he wasn't like overly goofy with the, all the typical things you say. He was pretty measured. I would say that's a pretty good approach. Did you see on how he talked to Gino Marino afterwards? Did you see that?
No, I did not.
So, like, they have all the Twitters and all the different feeds, and Jacques Doucet had like some afterward shots where he's visiting with people. Gino, of course, a good friend of ours who owns Gino's Italian Restaurant in Baton Rouge, fantastic place. I guess he had eaten there the night before, so like his first dinner was over at Gino's, and so he sees Gino's and he goes to shake his hand, and you can hear him say, "Man, that redfish was so good. You got to give me that recipe. Teach me how to cook that." So former South Brian,
Yeah, I think Brian Kelly's going to have, he's going to have a certain wit about him, and he always has had that. Of course, I'm going to see him a whole lot more than we've seen him in his years at Notre Dame. But I think he's going to, be that guy that makes you laugh every now and
then. Last night had a chance to be with some former, college baseball Hall of Famer Skip Bertman at a little get together with some former players, people like Ben McDonald and Chad Auger and Blair Barbier and Jason Williams and Kevin Shipp and many others were there. And it was a meet and greet kind of thing with Jay Johnson. Jay met a lot of guys for the first time. I mean, he's met many over the last few months, but this was an opportunity maybe to meet a few new folks and to kind of be in a room with, no cameras and just about 30 people. It was your first chance kind of meeting him one-on-one type of thing. What was your reaction?
I was impressed with Jay. When he got there, I was there, and at that point, there was only 5 or 6 people there other than our gracious hosts. So I talked to him more than probably I thought I might get a chance to, and he seemed like a great guy. And then, like, when Skip made him do the press conference, okay, that was funny. But that was really good. And he took some questions, and it sparked a lot of great conversation. And I learned a lot about Jay Johnson, the person, and his approach to baseball. Like, I asked him the question about, do you have a sign for the sacrifice bunt? I didn't know, but 2 years ago, Arizona led the nation in sacrifice bunts. But last year, they only had like 18. And he gave me a great answer. I mean, everybody heard it. And, and I said, we don't see a lot of sacrifice bunts at LSU in the last 12 years. So, go back to the UCLA and Omaha game. But anyway, that's another story. So, no, I was impressed with Jay Johnson. Got him to do a few things. And I think it's going to be good. I'm going to try to get to that 1 o'clock press conference today. No, I think LSU baseball fans, get ready. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I'll summarize this for you hardcore fans. They got an incredible offense. They're going to have an incredible lineup. And as Ben McDonald pointed out, they've got possibly 3 first-round draft choices that will be in the lineup. We're not talking pitchers here. We're talking hitters. LSU has never had 3 first-round position players in the lineup, and they may very well have that this year. Okay, and Jay Johnson, I don't have the greatest pitching staff. We're going to have to get games are going to be long, and we're going to have to use 4 or 5 guys to get 27 outs. We're going to have to win 6-4, 7-5. In days of Aaron Nola or Gosman just shoving it at somebody. I don't know that we're going to see that this year, but he's got a lot of guys coming in. He said that can really throw. So I was fired up last night. Baseball heaven, if you would. That's what we need to call that meeting, baseball heaven. And the best speech of the night came from Cuz, Ivan Cabrera. He got his 2 minutes in. Were you there for that, Ronnie?
Yeah.
He brought the house down.
Yeah,
Go Cuz.
He was giving Skip a hard time as athletic director. It was funny.
He said, Skip, you're the greatest AD I ever saw. Didn't say anything about baseball.
Right. But I agree. For LSU baseball fans, it will be. It's going to be refreshing. I think they're going to. When I went to some of the scrimmages and I went and saw them play 3 different times this fall, there was an intensity that was palpable. And I think part of that is they carried 46, 47 guys, and they can only keep 40. And they're not going to release that lineup until after the first of the year. So you won't really know who's transferring, who's sitting out because of injury and all that.
Unless a person who's leaving speaks out.
Right.
Which may happen.
Right.
The other thing I want to say, and I interrupted you, but also he's not going to coach third. He thinks he's more valuable in the dugout, talking to hitters and working with the pitching coach. And, he's a control guy. He wants to control. He's not going to say, you're the pitching coach, go stand on the other end of the dugout. So he said he used to coach third up until 2 years ago, and he thinks he's more valuable to the team in the dugout. I'm all about that. And he has a sacrifice bunt sign.
By the way, I'll say this when it comes to, and no chance there weren't other baseball coaches there. Other than Cano was there as well. So Cano was with Skip. I'll say this. I think that he's being completely transparent and honest. The pitching is going to be interesting. Obviously, guys will develop and some will come to the forefront, but they definitely are going to piecemeal this thing. Offensively, they're going to be spectacular. The last time LSU had two players in the first round-ish was in 1994. Todd Walker was a first-round pick, and Russ Johnson was a sandwich pick, just right outside the first round between the first and second round. That's it. And of course, in '93, we won the national championship. In '94, they went to Omaha. So that gives you hope. That's the last time you had two guys. And then, of course, they've got a lot of other guys that are on the peripheral that are still pretty good. So, I'll take a Dugas any day who had, 20 homers or 19 homers or something like that last year. So, it's going to be a very salty lineup, and I'm looking forward to it.
I'm very much looking forward to it.
TK, Kim Mulkey got things going. Finally the juice is back. They beat a ranked team last night.
They sure did. Knocked off a good Iowa State team, a big crowd at the PMAC. I'm telling you, okay, football season has ended other than the bowl game. They got a coach hired. We got to get a staff and a sign-up here. But turn your attention to some basketball, men's and women's. Right. Let it carry you right into the baseball season. Because as of today, you got to believe both of these basketball teams, Mulkey's team and Wade's team, are going to be in the postseason. That's what it looks like as of today.
Well, Will Wade's squad, it's about time they get ranked, right? After
well, that I know why. You know why they're not ranked, because everybody thinks he cheated and he's corrupt and all that, and so the writers and the coaches don't want to vote for him because he's kind of the black sheep right now. And we're going to learn more about that one day too.
66-51, they beat Ohio to go to 8-0. Ohio's 5-2. The thing about LSU basketball, and the reason that they have a chance this year to really maybe make it to the Sweet 16, or surely get into the tournament, is because they're playing defense for the first time under Will Wade. Not only are they playing defense, they're playing defense very well, and they don't even, the offense is still clunky a little bit. It's so role reversal from the last couple of years where the offense was scoring 75, 80 points a game and the defense was giving up that many. Now it's the other way around. We got to get the offense going, which is a good problem to have, because it's a lot easier for guys to put the ball in the basket than it is for them to stop people putting the ball in the basket, especially for these guys. A lot of scorers that are not, yet hitting their stride. So I feel like LSU basketball is in a good spot. Let's hope the NCAA lets them play out the year, and if there's any sanctions or anything that doesn't come down till after April, because it would be a shame if this season gets cut short or there was to be a postseason.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's going to be fun going forward for hoops.
All right, he's Tommy, back with more Sports Shorts Day Monday at 9 a.m. Sports Shorts Radio. With Terry Beckwith, we'll all be at Landers on Perkins. Check us out. We'll be there from 10 until noon until Tremonti's time.
We got Tremonti's gift cards. I got one right here. Get it for the office friends, the neighborhood, the family. Tremonti's gift cards, and a big special on Heaven's Door whiskey, Bob Dylan's whiskey, single barrel store pick. They got a big special on it right now. Every bottle is numbered, labeled, signed by Bob Dylan, and it's got a private label for Tremonti. So come check that out here as well. Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. Check them out.
What's the price tag on that Heaven's Door whiskey? Do you know?
$59.
$59. Cool. That's a pretty cool gift right there.
A friend of mine bought 4 of them yesterday. He goes, "This is gifts for me to give to my friends." You know? So perfect.
Yeah. All right. He's Tommy. I'm Ronnie. We'll Sports Shorts Radio on 105 ESPN Radio between 10